The town of Fountain Green is situated in San Pete County, about 100 miles south of Salt Lake City. It was settled in the fall of 1859 by a group of Mormon pioneers sent there by Brigham Young. In Fountain Green there is a house which our family recently restored. This is a history of that house and its subsequent restoration. We hope it will be of interest to you and answer some of the questions you may have about the house. The first owner and builder of the house in Fountain Green was Reese R. Llewellyn. Reese's granddaughter, Lula Llewellyn Whiting, explains what the house and surrounding area looked like.
Reese built a lovely 2-story brick home with 8 large rooms. There were 3 fireplaces in his home, and the entire house was painted by skilled painters and a professional artist. The parlor of this home was especially beautiful. It was painted in delicate colors, one with beautiful birds and flowers over the mantel and on the ceiling. The floor tapestry was like velvet. There were 2 large white verandas. A creek which supplied the water for the town ran through the grassy meadow at the east of the house. He also owned 25 acres in what was known as the Big Field.
After Reese and his wife Anne died, the house was passed on to a daughter and down through the family to the O'Neills, who were descendants of the Llewellyns. The O'Neills remodeled the house by turning the stairs around, bricking up the front door, and putting a bathroom in the old entryway. They then sold the house to Ned and Ora Peterson, who were not part of the Llewellyn family. After the Petersons became old, they tried to rent the house, but it remained vacant for 15 years until the spring of 1994, when our family bought the house.
We have friends that live in Fountain Green, and when we went to visit them one Saturday, we drove around the town. It's just a small community, and we noticed up on a hill this beautiful 2-story red brick pioneer home. After a lot of phone calls, we found out who owned it, approached the family, and they were willing to sell it to us, but it was coming up to be sold for back due taxes at a county sale. And so we were able to pay off the taxes before it went to sale, and then my husband was able to go to the IRS and pay off the tax liens that the IRS had on the home also.
The restoration of the house began in June of 1994. The first step was to tear out all the modernizations: paneling, sheetrock, carpet, linoleum, the stove, and the sink. There was also a lot of garbage that had to be removed in preparation for the contractor. The next step was the most dreaded: cleaning the attic. We found out about the attic when we entered a room on the 2nd story that was supposedly once called the ghost room. We hesitantly entered and soon found out why it had been called this. The room was in shambles. The sheetrock had fallen from the ceiling, and there was bat guano everywhere. In one corner there was a hole, which we had to crawl through to get to the attic. The bats and birds had been living in the attic for years, and there were a number of huge piles of bat guano. Luckily, we were able to scare off the bats and get to work. After shoveling, scraping, and vacuuming for a number of weeks, we came out with 32 black garbage bags full of bat guano, which we used to fertilize the yard. This job didn't go without casualty, as both Rita and David stepped through the ceiling while trying to clean up. Luckily, no one was hurt seriously or came down with hantavirus. Although we scared away the bats in the attic, We encountered live bats on 2 separate occasions while working around the house. Once, while tearing off the plaster by the stairs, we came across a hibernating bat. He was not happy about being awakened. The other encounter came while David was cleaning the eaves outside. When he pulled down one of the boards, 23 hibernating bats fell out, barely able to move. Dale, the contractor, cooked them home to his kids. During the time when we had the bats, Mark found a dead one and put it on his shoulder. He then began screaming and calling to everyone to come see the bat. It was a good joke, and we still have that little bat in a glass case. We also had bees to contend with. They were sprayed twice by a pest control company, but to no avail. So Dale had to tear up some floorboards and scrape out the hive. He and Rob, his helper, had to use the high-power vacuum to suck up the bees before they got stung. After the attic was cleaned out, it was time to remove the plaster from the walls. This was a messy, time-consuming job. In order to loosen the plaster from the walls, we often had to hit it with a sledgehammer. By the end of the day, our hair would be white from all the dust. When we took the plaster and old sheetrock off, we found the original fireplaces. These had been stuffed with fiberglass and were absolutely filthy. We looked under the floorboards in front of the fireplaces in hopes of finding a hidden treasure, but we didn't find anything. With this dirty of a job, a war was waiting to happen. It seems the soot went straight from the fireplaces to Mom and the girls, but at least the fireplaces got cleaned. We wanted to restore the house to its original form. This involved tearing out the old bathroom, turning the stairs around to where they were originally, and putting back the original front door. The former owners had bricked it up to install the bathroom. When we took out the brick, we found the original framing, minus one piece. And we found the original door out in the barn. We also had to remove the ceiling texture from one of the rooms. Mark and Rita had to dress up in protective gear in case of harmful dust or chemicals. They first wetted it down with a hose and then scraped it off. They were able to clean it pretty well without making a huge mess. With the weather as nice as it was outside, we decided to tear off the root cellar on the back of the house to make room for a new addition to the house. The root cellar was a lean-to with a rock-lined hole. We first tore off the roof, and then knocked down the brick walls. We then had to scrape the mortar off of the bricks so they could be used on the new addition. In the process, Athena got one of her fingers smashed, which wasn't too traumatic. Between dirty fireplaces and rabid bats, there was time for fun and taking a break. We often went metal detecting out in the yard and found a number of old metal objects. And our breaks were almost always accompanied with lunch from Wendy's, courtesy of Rita. While we were working on the house, we found a number of treasures. Many of the doors were hand-grained, which we discovered while stripping the paint off. Also, we had noticed that the barn had an old sign on the roof, so we got up on the roof to get it down. What we found was not just one Quaker State sign, but a number of well-preserved signs. The greatest treasure of all, however, was the parlor. In the history of the house, it mentioned a painted room. When we took the paneling off, there was a painted room, still under a few layers of wallpaper. As of today, we still haven't removed the wallpaper or restored the paintings, but is planned for the near future. With the house cleaned out, it was time to install the heating ducts in preparation for the winter. The fires in the fireplaces didn't quite keep us warm enough, so we installed a furnace to make the house cozy during the cold winter months. In order for the heater to work, we had to redo the electricity. The power lines ran in front of the house, so Dale and his helper Rob were able to dig a trench and hook up the power. We decided with all the people moving around in the house, we had better fill in the cracks in the bricks, both inside and outside. Over the years, the house had settled and bricks had cracked and fallen out. We had extra bricks and some mortar, and we were able to repair all of the holes and cracks. The house was now totally stripped of all that it had before, so it was now time to start building. The first project was fixing up the attic so we could put in 3 more bedrooms. Dale first had to punch a hole in the attic. Then he and Rob put in a staircase leading up into the former bat den. Until Dale could secure the roof where he had punched the hole, we had to climb through the hole to get to the attic. Uncle Mark, the architect, was amazed that the roof and attic had stayed intact considering how they had been built. Dale secured them by doubling the floorboards, putting in sidewalls, and by placing triangle braces at the apex of the roof to keep the boards from twisting. To give more room to the attic, we added 2 more dormers on the north side and 3 on the east. These have also provided much needed light and air to those sleeping in the attic. After the episode of cleaning the bat guano in the attic, we thought we were through with bat remains. However, the 3 chimneys in the attic were covered with crystallized bat nests. We had to use everything from chisels to scrub brushes to hydrochloric acid to get them off. In order for us to have bathrooms, plumbing, and other modern conveniences, we had to put an addition on the back of the house. We first had to tear off the old kitchen on the back. It was falling apart and too small for what we needed. By taking it down brick by brick, we were able to use the bricks on the outside of the new addition, which kept the feel of the house. The addition started as a big hole in the ground. It was meant to have a sitting area, eating area, kitchen and laundry room downstairs, and a furnace room, bathrooms, and den upstairs. On the back side of the house was where the larger part of the addition was to go. It would have 6 windows and house the kitchen and eating area, with a fireplace. The second story wasn't very high on the back, so we put in a furnace room and 2 bathrooms. The whole back unit was meant to match the house so that it looked as original as possible. The roof couldn't be put on the addition until under the eaves were cleaned out. There were birds' nests lodged in all of them, and only after scraping them out and using a vacuum were we able to get them fully clean. The west part of the addition had the laundry room downstairs and a den upstairs. It was built together with the back part of the addition. We had a brick mason come and brick this part of the addition because it faced the street. By using the bricks from the torn down portions of the house, he was able to blend the addition in perfectly with the original house. With the shell of the addition now done, Dale and his ever faithful helpers now turned to wiring and adding heating ducts. Added a few touches to the framing, such as putting in beams from the old barn that once stood on the property, and putting in the fireplace. They also added a bar which separated the kitchen area from the eating area. They then added furring strips to all of the brick walls in the main part of the house so that insulation and sheetrock could be attached to the brick. Upstairs, Dale put up a stud wall to act as a hallway going into the first bathroom. He also put in some closet space in the back where we could store extra stuff. He then put in the tub so that we could have some of the modern conveniences. The next step on the addition was to cut a hole in the brick to make a doorway into the new addition where the den was to be. Of course, Dale could never be serious about anything he was doing. He wasn't sure if the brick wall would hold when he cut out the doorway, so he added extra support across the top of the doorway. The framing was now done in the whole house, so it needed to be insulated well before putting up the sheetrock. We We put insulated sheathing along the brick walls and fiberglass insulation in the new addition. We lined this with plastic as extra insulation. It was finally time for the sheetrock, which we hauled in through an upstairs door to get to the attic and second story. The sheetrock really made it feel like the house was taking shape and all the work was beginning to pay off. We then had some plasterers come to put plaster on the walls so that the walls would look original. This plaster, however, was modern and didn't contain animal hair, such as the original plaster. Dale then donned his famous painting outfit and painted the whole house, giving it 3 good coats. Although the roof hadn't shown signs of leaking, we decided it was time to re-roof the house. All of the old shingles were thrown into Dale's dump truck and new ones were put in their stead. With all of this done, we decided to clean the floors. When we tore up all the carpet in the house, it exposed the original wood floors, which were filthy. Through various methods and a lot of help, we cleaned all the floors in the house. A lot of times this job left us exhausted and there was nothing else to do but crash on the bed. Dale now started on the finishing touches in the house. He put down wood floors in the kitchens and bathrooms, which we urethaned so that they would last longer. He installed the toilets and sinks. He put up some large false beams in the kitchen and living area, and put the signs we had found on the roof of the barn between them. He also added some beautiful mantels to the fireplaces. This is where his artistic touch really showed through, and we have really enjoyed what they add to the house. Many a cold morning has been spent sitting in front of these mantels, sipping hot chocolate and shooting the breeze. During this time, the kitchen cupboards were being installed. They were a dark red color, meant to match the oxblood stain used by the pioneers. We then added some appliances to these and were able to cook our meals. In order to give some of the house a more comfortable feel, we added carpet to an attic room and to the den. Now it was time to paint, and paint we did. The moldings on the second floor we painted a blue color. The rest of the house we stained with the oxblood stain. All of the moldings and even the windows were stained and then urethaned twice to give a shiny look. The process took 2 weeks to finish and there was always touch-up to do. The house inside was now very livable, so we again turned our attention to the outside. The house had gingerbread trim around it, which was starting to fall apart. Laura and Athena secured the pieces together as best they could, and then Dale put them back up after cleaning and fixing the eaves. He was able to salvage most of the pieces, and those he couldn't, he made new ones. By this time the city had installed a sewer system, and we were able to dig up the old rock-lined septic tank in the front yard. This was a relief not only to us because the front walkway was supposed to go there, but to our neighbor who claimed the septic tank flooded her house when it rained. Originally, the house had a porch on the south side and on the east side. At some point in time, the east porch had either fallen or been taken down. The south porch still remained, but was falling apart, and we wanted to extend it around to the new addition. Dale and Rob jackhammered the old porch out and had new footings laid for the new porch. They then extended the porch around the corner to the new addition and laid down redwood boards. A new sturdy roof was put on with rough-cut logs showing on the underside, the same way it was before. Dale and Scott then put spindled rails around the outside and the south porch was done. The east side was now ready to be built. When we put in the footings on the south porch, we also had them put in on the east porch. Dale then used the original metal braces in between the bricks to secure the two-story porch to the house. He then put on the same railings and spindles as the south porch. The porch really added a lot to the house and gave a fun place to sit in the summer. We spent the next Saturday painting it. A few more touch-up things by Dale and he was done with the house. This left the landscaping to be done. The yard was for the most part full of weeds and covered with fallen down fences. The first thing we did was burn the weeds, which was a scary thing because the fire got fairly big and sometimes a little out of control. We then took out all of the old fence posts because we wanted the yard to be one big area. Most of them were so loose that we were able to pull them out by hand. We also tried to fix up the old barn. It had some old chicken coops in it and had been home to many animals, mostly sheep. Now it was time for John McKay, the landscaper, to get to work. First, he leveled out the yard and garden area and put in a sprinkler system. Then he and his helper put out Nutrimulch and grass seed. We then had some stones brought in from the old ZCMI building in Manti that had just been torn down, and we used them as landscaping. They were used to line the driveway and as steps leading up to the porches. David lost his fingernail between two of the larger stones. We then laid brick walkways around the outside of the house and leading down to the parking area. Many fingers were smashed trying to get the bricks in the right spot. Between the brick walkways and the house, we left a few feet for flower beds. These were fertilized with 3 truckloads of Nutrimulch. The house is now done except for a number of small things. We have spent Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's Eve, and many other holidays and weekends in Fountain Green. We have had fun sledding, building snowmen, playing snow football, and many other activities. We would like to thank all who helped in this project of restoring the house. Dale the contractor and his helpers, Uncle Mark the architect, Nathan the painter, John the landscaper, Ralph the truck, and the many others who spent so much time helping out. We hope that you will enjoy the house as much as we have. Please relax and enjoy the atmosphere of Fountain Green.